Hello and welcome back to Sage's Tabletop Table Talks. I'm Sage, this is my table. I'm going to talk to you about tabletop role-playing games. Posted a video last week about problem player behaviors. This is my follow-up. Maybe try to hit these out a little bit. The big ones that I had problems with I did last week, so these ones are going to be kind of more, hopefully a little more flowy. I shouldn't have to split this into 3 parts. I think I can get the rest of this done in 2 before I go into my video about a weird toxic element of the D&D community that I am fucking shocked by. Anyway, just to clarify, when I say a problem behavior, it's not the same thing as a toxic behavior. So a toxic behavior is like racism, if a player is being actively racist, or I keep telling this story because I think it's relevant to what toxic player behaviors are. A guy who was playing a noble in one of my games who was insistent on finding like a 13-year-old bride for his character. Even though his character was like fucking 20-something. And I'm like, no! Just fucking no! You're not gonna fucking marry a 13-year-old, you fucking weirdo! What the fuck is wrong with you? Go play Monster Hearts. That's kind of a joke. Kind of a joke. I find Monster Hearts a weird fucking game. I'm putting it out there. Monster Hearts is really... I don't like it. I don't like PBTA as a general statement, but Monster Hearts is like a little extra level weird. Why do you want to play 16-year-olds doing sex moves at each other? And they are explicitly called sex moves, so don't fucking try to sugarcoat that shit, alright? But like, people like that who want to play like, he's like, who's like, was weirdly obsessed with it too. Like, dude, no, you're a fucking creep. That's not the same as a problem character. Not even a problem player. Problem player behaviors. Because a lot of these characters are not problem players. There are certain behaviors that are kind of, they create some tension at the table. And I want to kind of just go over some of these, and like I said, you can go to my previous video and see some of the big, especially the 2 big ones, which is the power gamer and the misaligned player, as kind of ones I had major issues with. But yeah, and people just they're very and they often require either little tweaks on their behalf, or honestly just an understanding that this community of what tabletop role-playing game isn't universally what is often talked about. It is collaborative storytelling. But it's structured collaborative storytelling. There are structured elements of it. There are rules. There are ways that things work. And you just kind of have to accept that. And so, not every player just wants to play this free-form, kind of, I forget what the game is called, where you write a page of a story and you pass to the next person and they write the next page and you pass I can't remember what that game's called, but that's not what Dungeons and Dragons, that's not what tabletop role-playing game is for the most part. It's not even really like a movie, because even the director and writer have final say in a movie. It's its own thing. There's nothing like Dungeons and Dragons. There's nothing like tabletop role-playing games. And it's kind of what it is. And certain people, I think, walk in with a misunderstanding of what we do, what the tabletop role-playing games are, and they won't let that go. Whether it's people coming in from a wargaming mindset, or people coming in from a pure narrative mindset, or what have you. And often these things that people think are problems aren't, and don't need fixed. But sometimes they are, and so a lot of times these just need very minor fixes. But anyway, once again, I've jabbered for 5 minutes already. So let's get started. Next one is tonight's first one is the Murder Hobo player. Murder Hobo's solution to every problem is violence, disregarding consequences or alternative approaches. They derail encounter, alien NPCs with reckless aggression. Their solution: encourage role-playing and exploration of alternative solutions. If that's what would work, they would have done it. saying, hey, don't hit. Well, I can't get into it. They worded it in a very, like, flowery way, which a very fucking I'm being a little bit of a boomer here, but a very fucking hippy-dippy way. Discuss character motivations, the importance of thoughtful actions, not just combat. So there's something here to talk about, which is if the murder hobo, why is he being a murder hobo? Have you gone long periods of time without a fight? So I tell this story because it is one of the fucking worst things I did as a player in a D&D campaign. And I regret it. And David, if you see this, I'm sorry. I am still so fucking sorry I did this. And I pushed the other players into it. So it is me. I was just a fucking asshole. Like, I was just a fucking dick. I had a DM, and I don't know if he didn't like or didn't understand how divination magic worked, but I was playing a diviner. I like diviners. Because people who play wizards are tools, and you'll see what I mean by this. Wizards have the biggest toolkits because they're the biggest tools. But he kept, every time I tried to use my divination, there would be something that went wrong, whether this grind didn't work, or my detect didn't quite detect what it was right. The big ones I remember, there was a hidden latch, and I cast detect secret doors in a room, and I scanned the room. He said, well, it wasn't secret, it was just kind of hidden off because it wasn't obvious. I'm like, well, that's what secret is. And we kind of had a fight about it, and I just felt like my power was being underutilized. But I was getting frustrated and kind of bored with this game. So we were going into a church to try to uncover, like, corrupt undead in this church. And when we discovered the undead in the church, I smashed a bunch of pews and convinced everybody to set the church on fire and burn it down. And it ruined his campaign. And I probably should have had a more adult discussion with him about it. I should have just sat there and been like, hey, I feel like you weren't giving my character. Do you not want me to play? We can change. At that time I might have been more reluctant to change. I was a lot younger and a lot stupider and a lot more stubborn than I am now. Age has softened me a little bit when it comes to that shit. But I should have been more adult about it. Just straight up. I should have been. And my solution was to literally burn his campaign. And it's because I was feeling bored. I felt like I wasn't given the opportunity to do what I thought I should have been able to do. So is your murder hoboing because of that? Or are they murder hoboing because they just want to watch the world burn? That's two separate issues. If the issue is they're murder hoboing because they're feeling bored, there needs to be some discussions about the way you're DMing and the way they're playing. I said, and I talked about this last time, about the easily distracted player. If I build a character themed around combat, and we're not fighting, and you didn't make it clear that this campaign would have very little combat, as a player, they're going to start acting out, because you are actively disengaging them from the game. And, you know, you're basically... So imagine if you were playing... Imagine you guys were playing a board game like Trouble. And you just kept skipping a player's turn. You just kept skipping a turn. He's either going to walk away, or he's going to get pissed off and do something like flip the board, or pull pieces off, or something like that. Because it's natural to get mad when you've been invited to a game and then being told that you're not allowed to play the game. So that's entirely possible. Now, there are some people who just think it's funny to ruin everybody else's fun by doing shit like this. And the solution here is just DM no. I'm gonna murder the shopkeep. No, you're not. Well, no, you're not murdering the shopkeep, okay? You're not doing it. And, you know, people are like, well, make the guard. Well, no, because if you do the thing where the guards come and they have to fight the guards, you're kind of encouraging that behavior. As a DM, you can just be like, no, you're not doing it. I said no, you're not allowed to do it. I do think that it's something that is so... Our community is so weird about the DM not telling people that they just can't fucking do something. You can tell players they can't fucking do something. You hear these weird stories about the bar, and this kind of is similar to the murder hobo, the fuck everything bard. I fucking hate the fuck everything bard archetype. It has ruined bards for me. You guys are fucking annoying. But like, oh, fucked. No, you're not fucking every barkeep that comes along. Like, well, make them rule for STDs. No, you're not making them rule for STDs. You're just fucking engaging this negative behavior. No, it's like a dog that, you know, barks when they're not supposed to bark. Don't engage it, just no. 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 But don't... They're like, oh, come on, it's okay. It's just encouraging their behavior. Sometimes you just have to put your foot down and say no. And that's really what it comes down to. And there's a certain point where they're doing this shit, you just gotta ask, what the fuck's going on, dude? Why the fuck are you doing this? Why are you ruining everybody else's fun? Why are you making it harder for other players and me at this table? Are you bored? Do you just think it's funny to make? Because if you think it's funny to make us miserable, maybe this isn't the game for you, you know? And I don't mean this as a dig. Go fucking play COD. Like, you know, you can play COD. There are antagonistic board games you can play, you know, fucking Monopoly. Like, maybe that's something a little more that you want. Fucking go play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, where, you know, you're encouraged to rip your friend's spine out and throw fireballs at him. This isn't the time. This isn't the place. Like, you just might have to just be like, dude, what the fuck? You know, what the fuck? But anyway, the next one is the indecisive player. This player takes too long to make decisions, delaying the flow of the game, especially during combat. Their second guessing can be frustrating to the rest of the group. And their solution is encourage them to familiarize with their character's abilities and options before session. Ugh! You can also implement a turn timer to keep combat in the game moving. Do not implement a turn timer to keep the fucking game moving. That is such a fucking dick thing to do to somebody. Because you know what? Some people might just have fucking trouble remembering. First of all, let me just put this out there. Fucking D&D is not homework. You shouldn't have to go fucking home and memorize what every fucking spell does. Yes, you familiarize yourself with the ability, stuff to the best of your ability. You know, maybe, you know, I know it's not a feasible option because the shit's expensive, but like, the more players have access to books, you know, if a player does fit action X, and you want to do action Y, while they're rolling, you know, flip to action Y and do a quick scan before it's your turn. One of the other things to do is have the rules lawyer sit beside the indecisive player. Yes, Rosie, I know. Sorry. Go. Long story about the door, it sticks. Anyway. But yes, anyway, so have the problem, you know, have the rules lawyer sit next to him. Let him help the guy remember his spells and abilities. Let him be like, hey man, you should really use your, you know, key strike next, because I think if you use your stunning fist or whatever, that's going to do a lot. And okay, so how does that work again? Okay, so you roll, then when you hit them, you roll your to hit, and then they roll, you know, this, and and it'll also help that rules lawyer player stay engaged because he gets to show off his rules lawyer abilities. Went low on water. This is another thing that often goes away in time because, like I said, some of this is from inexperienced players, and the more you play, the more you're just gonna know the game. The idea that they have to go home and memorize all their abilities is dick move. Here's the thing. Um, it is absolutely a problem I had in school. I'm not interested in fucking homework. And D&D isn't fucking homework. You know, I'm not fucking grading you on this shit. This isn't fucking gonna go on your fucking permanent record. It's not gonna affect your GED. It's not gonna your GPA. It's not gonna affect anything but what's happening in game. Expecting a player to go home and do homework in D&D is so fucking... Now, obviously, if they're enjoying it, a lot of people do go home and they kind of start familiarizing themselves with stuff. They might get engaged with content creators who talk about stuff like this. And I can actually... the dungeon... I don't necessarily agree with all these people, but Dungeon Dudes, Jenny D, Puffin Forest, Seth Grgowski are... content creators I regularly follow who talk about rules and stuff in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Seth Grgowski especially is also good about Call of Cthulhu and Shadowrun content. But if you if you get into this hobby, start following people like them who will talk about spells and abilities and rules, and you'll learn things where like they'll talk about abilities that seem underpowered but actually have really good effects, and you'll start just kind of through osmosis learning these things through play, just natural play. If you're keyed in, watching what other players do will help you understand. If you watch me play a paladin and you just sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to use my smite, and I tell you how my smite works, and watching me do that, if you play a paladin, you'll be like, oh shit, that smite ability is that one that Sage did all the time, and you probably understand a little bit about how I did it because you watched me do it 150 fucking times. So, I mean, yeah. And, here's the thing. Do not implement a turn timer because someone is taking a long time. That is just straight up fucking bullying. Some people, they might not have a grasp of the rules. They might not. Some people, they might not have the head for mechanics. Like, I've talked about how this game is a mechanical game and how people who play this game have to have a certain level of understanding of game mechanics. But at the same time, this is also a narrative game, and some people are here for the story and the social interaction. And they might have a grasp of how the game works. I rolled a d20, I had this number. If my DM says I hit, I roll these dice to do damage. Then they may not know every single fucking power a barbarian has. They might not know every spell that a warlock has. And if they're playing a warlock, they're probably not very smart. Again, that's a joke. Calm the fuck down. Kind of a joke. But anyway, implementing a term timer because they don't have an encyclopedic knowledge, it is just bullying them. It is that thing. Like I said, I'm from an older generation. I'm 40. I know I don't look it. I got the boyish good looks. But I'm 40. I'm from a generation when playing D&D meant if you were that kind of person, you got picked on all the time. You got called names. Man, the number of times I got called the R word at school because of my personality, just who I am, it somewhat affects me to this day because bullying fucking hurts. And telling somebody, I'm giving you 30 seconds to remember your ability, and they might not just have that mindset, they may not have those knowledge of the rules, that's mean. That's just fucking cruel. Do not. Now, there are times when putting on a timer might work. This isn't a good time for things like combat, but it could be something like putting a timer, making a decision like, the room is flooding, 30 seconds, what do you do? And then the player would be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Stop the timer, allow them to then roll the rules they want to make, tell you the answers, Because that can lead to some tension. Making them make a decision within a certain time period. But to remember a rule or a specific ability within a certain time period is just bullying people who do not have the same understanding of the mechanics that other people at the table do. And here's the thing, that rules lawyer and that power gamer are going to have that shit down. The guy who's here to because they want to be a theater kid, there's a very high possibility they may not have that ability down. And all you have done is singled them out as a bad player. And if you do that, get the fuck out of my hobby. I'm not kidding. Get the fuck out of my hobby. I'm not interested in having asshole bullies ruining my hobby. You're just mean-spirited. The reason to do it is mean-spirited. Here's the thing. When you were first playing this game, when you were first learning the rules, people didn't do this shit to you. And if they did, they were pieces of shit. And, like, legitimately, this makes me mad. Be fucking patient, you know? Not everybody has this understanding. You know, I know people who struggle with math. People who have dyscalculia. So the numbers are hard for them to remember. And to do a piece of shit move like that is just fucking effectively making fun of them for that. Because they're struggling with that. Some people might struggle with memory. Or just, you know, maybe they don't have fucking 16 hours in the spare hours in the week to fucking memorize their abilities. And people didn't do, you know, if you're playing this, and maybe they did, and fuck them. But there are a lot of people who probably had a lot of fucking patience for you when you were first learning your abilities. And that's just kind of it, is be fucking patient with some of these people. They're probably trying their best. If they're here every week playing and engaging, they're probably doing their best. They just might not have the same head for it you do, and I will not advocate, I will not stand for this kind of fucking bullying in my hobby. And yeah, okay, I'm maybe a little bit of gatekeeper, but fuck you. Get the fuck out of my hobby. I'm not interested in having you ruin this for some player, some new person, some theater kid, somebody with maybe a learning disability, because you can't wait an extra fucking 25 seconds for somebody to explain to them how fucking rage works. Fuck you, and fuck the writers of this for even suggesting a fucking turn timer. You can go fuck yourself with a rake. Anyway, the next one they have, I'm sorry, the turn timer just really set me off, because it is just cruel to do something like that to a player. Like, it is no joke, just go fuck yourself. Like, you're a bad person, like, if you're pulling shit like that. And yeah, you might get mad at me, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. Like, you need to fucking look at yourself in the mirror and realize the kind of person you're being when you do shit like that. Like, maybe change. If you've set on a turn timer, you're the problem, not the person who can't remember the exact fucking what exactly takes a key point and doesn't take a key point. Anyway, let's move on. Sore player loser. When things don't go this way, this player becomes disengaged, frustrated, or even passive-aggressive. They struggle to cope with their character's setbacks. Solution. Remind them D&D is about character growth, both victories and failures. Encourage them to embrace challenges and opportunities as storytelling and role-playing. And honestly, this is about the best advice you can give somebody like that. Just tell them, hey, look, sometimes you lose. If they're constantly failing, if you're the kind of DM who just... I don't want to say that, because I know a lot of people enjoy the fucking meat grinder style of D&D play, and that's perfectly fine if that's the kind of game that you like. Absolutely. But, like, generally speaking, most players don't want to just constantly feel like failures. There's actually a lot of games out there that have fail-forward mechanics. I believe it's Teens in Space. If you fail a roll, you get effectively a fate point that you can use later on. So the idea is a very narrative. You start the game failing. The game Power and Responsibility does something similar. You start the game failing, and as the game goes on, every time you fail, you get more resources to power your characters and abilities, so that toward the end of the story, you have a lot more resources to succeed. And I think those are really, really good mechanics, because it allows players to feel good about their failures. I think problem with a lot of games, especially ones made before like 2010, 2015, is there's a lot of binary pass fail. If you fail, you just failed. If you failed to pick the lock of that door, you just failed to pick the lock of that door. And there's a place for that, and certainly there's something to be said for that, but constant failure can feel very defeating, so there's a little bit of that. But if a player can't take a single loss, you might just have to tell them to grow up a little bit. Like, look, sometimes you lose. Like, that's all there is to it. And if all they care about is winning constantly, and this kind of goes into the last topic we're going to talk about, if all you care about is winning and being the best and constantly, maybe D&D isn't right for you, because good narratives are built around overcoming failures. And like I said, there's nuance here, because constant failures feel defeating, but if the character is just getting really pissy about failing one thing, you just might have to be like, dude, come on, it's not the end of the world. It's okay, and you're gonna get that victory later on. I don't know if they act like that, you don't want to give them inspiration or fate points, because you don't want to encourage that behavior. But certainly at the table, something to do is just consider if you fail spectacularly, especially if a player can make their failure funny. If a player is trying to, let's say, climb a wall and they fail the climb check, and then they're like, oh, I fall into a rose bush, and I come out, and I'm pulling stickers out of my butt, like a fucking Looney Tunes, and the other players chuckle, give them an inspiration for that. Be like, you turned your failure into something enjoyable for the group. Inspiration. I think that's perfectly acceptable to do. And then they don't feel like their failure was a failure so much as it was an opportunity to kind of engage with the group. But yeah, the only thing you can do with the sore loser player is just be like, man, it's okay. The cheating player. This falls closer to the toxic player than a problem player behavior, but we'll talk about it. This player cheats by fudging dice rules or using outside resources. They might read ahead in a pre-written adventure you're running, or look up monster stat blocks during combat. Either way, they seek an unfair advantage, which undermines the integrity of the game. Set clear expectations of trust and fairness at the table. Yeah, that fucking comes with being part of a social gaming group, you fucking asshole. It's assumed you're not gonna fucking cheat when you're playing a game with people. You wouldn't, if somebody was fucking fudging, if somebody was, rolling and scooping in Monopoly, being like, oh, I rolled double fours, you wouldn't be like, hey, there's an expectation about fairness. No, you're gonna fucking tell them that, hey, dude, don't fucking cheat. You're not gonna play Monopoly with them if they're constantly cheating. If they're, pocketing money from the bank when you're not looking. Don't play this, fucking footsie game with people who are cheating. Make it clear that cheating harms the group's enjoyment and is unacceptable. If you're playing D&D in person, try using a dice. I hate dice towers. They take up too much room on the table. I'm just gonna say it. I kind of have a smaller table. Like, that's the width of my table I have in my kitchen or my dining room. And you're getting 6 people around here and a map and character sheets. Have to bust out small tables to put stuff on, hold stuff on our laps. Your fucking honk-ass dice tower is taking up, 5% of the available real estate just so you can use a dice tower. And dice towers don't prevent cheating. They don't stop loaded dice. They don't stop the roll and scoop. They don't. They're a gimmick that people sell and are constantly trying to sell you. So if you like dice towers, that's fine. I don't have a problem with dice towers. Some of them look really fucking cool. They're not this universal solution to cheating. They're a gimmick that is fun to have if you like them, but don't think that they're this end-all be-all solution to people fucking with dice, because they're not. People who tell you that are just trying to sell you a dice tower, or have bought the fucking propaganda. They've drank the Kool-Aid of the dice towers. Once again, if you like dice towers, cool, but by all means use them. I'm not anti-dice tower. I don't feel the need to buy something that's going to take up this much real estate at a table for no reason other than to play. Also, some of them take a long time to roll. Yeah, my solution. This isn't a problem. This is toxic. These are the kind of people that feel the need to cheat because they have to win. They have to show their dominance about everyone. The only thing you can do is call them on their shit or kick them out of your group. That's it. That's the only thing you can do with a cheating player, is to fucking call them on it. If somebody is reading ahead in a module that you're running, just fucking call them on it. Be like, dude, you're ruining it for everybody else. Like, that's the reason I don't read modules, because my player be like, hey, I want to run, Curse of Strahd. I haven't read a single word of Curse of Strahd. Still haven't. The only thing I know about Curse of Strahd was when our 1DM ran it. And you know what? I don't know what she fucking changed and what she didn't change. So I don't know shit about Curse of Strahd. I sometimes accidentally catch videos of like people talking about modules, so things like that, but if a player buys the module you're running so they can read ahead in it, honestly, the only thing you can really do is fucking kick them from the table. Be like, dude, you're not playing with us anymore. You fucking ruined the game for everybody else. Go home. Like, we're not interested in this shit, dude. Come the fuck on. Yeah, like, this isn't problem player behavior. This is a toxic player, and they have to be dealt with the way you deal with toxic players. Call them on their shit. Kick them the fuck out of your group. The inconsistent player. This is another eye roll for me. Player frequently misses sessions or cancels last minute. Canceling last minute is kind of a problem. Making it hard to maintain consistency. Solution: discuss the importance of reliable attendance and consider adjusting the schedule if needed. If the problem persists, have an honest conversation about the commitment to your group. I'm not your principal, and I'm not your fucking boss. This isn't a job, this is a hobby. I work 45 to 55 hours a week. I have a wife. I have 2 kids. I have, a brother and a mother and cousins and uncles and a sister-in-law and a father-in-law and a mother-in-law. And sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes your fucking car breaks. Sometimes you're fucking sick. If somebody's constantly canceling last minute, that can be a problem, and you just have to kind of be like, look, just try to give us more than an hour in advance, because if we're sitting here waiting on you, and it's, half an hour after we're supposed to get together, and you call and tell us you're not making it out, like, give us a warning. As if you're not going to make it to a session, give me as much of a warning as you can. A month. So, and remind me, because my brain is like a fucking sieve. Like, it's a fucking colander. You put shit in there and half of it sloshes out anyway. Like, honestly, like, I am so thankful I married my wife, because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't know where my keys are, where the TV remote is. I probably wouldn't know where my fucking shoes are. Like, honest to God, if it wasn't for her, like, I am so absent-minded. I forget things so easily. Not a single bill I have would be paid on time, not because of the money, but because I just fucking wouldn't remember to pay the electric bill until the fucking power went out. I wouldn't remember, to pay fucking insurance until I get in a fucking crash and realize that I'm just fucked over the table. So I am so thankful for my wife and how smart and even-headed she is. Like, for real, like, I couldn't function as an adult if it wasn't for her, if we're being completely honest. So you might have to remind me multiple times if you can't make it to a session. But, okay, yeah. Real life gets in the way. It sucks. Some players just have a busier life than others. I'm not your boss. I'm not your principal. This isn't a job. This isn't a school. This is a hobby. Give me as much heads up as you can. And if a player can't be really consistent, you might have to make certain concessions for them. Have them pick a player that runs the character in proxy. Have the character able to duck in and out of the narrative quickly. Whatever it is, but have an honest conversation about their commitment to the group. Get bent. Like, for real, that's not helpful advice. Once again, that's just such a dick thing to do to somebody. Like, hey, this hobby we get together on Saturday nights that takes away your free time of, your life, the little bit of free time we all have outside of work and family. You really need to consider your commitment to me. And I do get it, because, like, we're all built, but, like, here's the God's honest truth. If you can't make it to one of my sessions, sometimes we'll just, okay, fine, Pete can't make it to a session. Tony, you're playing Pete's character tonight. You're not going to make any big role-playing decisions on his behalf, and we might not play. Maybe if multiple people can't go, sometimes we'll just fucking watch a movie or whatever. Or, maybe have a separate campaign set up by DM for the smaller group. If, like, multiple people, like, 3 people who ride together can't make it, okay, fine, we'll play this smaller campaign that I have set up for when they can't make it, because they're not consistent, because, once again, they have a little family, they have work, they have, financial struggles that we all fucking deal with. So, yeah, it gets annoying when they're constantly canceling last minute, I get that. And there is a certain commitment you have to have to the gaming group as a whole. But, like, I'm not your fucking boss. Like, I can't dock you pay if you don't show up. And here we are at the end of the solution. They call it something. It's a stupid name. I don't know what the fuck it means. It's a main character, but I'm just gonna call it what it is. Main character syndrome. Constantly tries to dominate the narrative, often making the game revolve around their player. They hog the spotlight, they interrupt others, they downplay their fellow friends' contributions. They might do disruptive or frustrating behavior, and by saying, well, that's what my character would do, as an excuse to derail the game or make it about them. Yeah, I'm gonna put that, let's tag that on the what my character would do, as an extra thing, because it is a problem player behavior, but it's just kind of this universal thing that needs to just kind of be discussed on its own. But but they talk about, main character syndrome, how to stop it, make it clear that but this is the kind of person who thinks that the story is about them, that they are the doctor and everybody else is their companion, that they are, Conan the Barbarian, and everybody else is just the people that duck in and out of their story. The best way I can describe it is D&D is closer to the Avengers, where and D&D is an ensemble cast. Everybody at the table is a main character in their own right. But their solution, make it clear that D&D is a collaborative experience, encourage players to share the spotlight, engage with others, promoting teamwork and equal participation. They said talk about setting boundaries, remind everybody that D&D is a shared storytelling experience, encourage cooperation, give other players opportunity to shine, and ensure that every character's story is valued equally. So one of the big things you can do here to solve the problem is give problems that the person with main character syndrome can't solve. Force them to rely on other people. Because some people are, like I said, they were used to coming in from video gaming, playing games like Skyrim, because I think there's a natural progression from games like Elder Scrolls or Mass Effect to games like Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowrun or Cyberpunk to Cyberpunk. Honestly, I think there's a natural through line, but these games, video games, have to let the player be the main character. So the player has to be able to do everything. Even if it's hiring NPCs to do something for them, those are NPCs. They are still minions to the main character. And so, like I said, there's absolutely a natural walk from that, but you just have to kind of break them of it. Some people just can't stand, some people are just kind of egotistical. And once again, this comes down to DM no. If I have a player and they're having a really deep emotional moment with one of their, character arc, and somebody butts in and tries to take over it, as the DM, you just be like, look, this is their moment, can you not? And the other players at the table kind of have to do that too, be like, dude, step back, okay? This is their moment. You had your moment, when you fucking took the head of the rival clan and held it and presented it to your chieftain. You had your moment. Now that they've reunited now this character's reunited with their brother, let them have their moment. We let you have your moment. Let them have their moment. Social pressure is a huge part of this. Breaking main character syndrome. The ultimate solution is to have an open and honest conversation with the player about that. And like I said, you might have to just be like, look, this isn't a video game. We are collaborative here. We are all at the table. We are all the main characters. It's a hard one to break, but like I said, the only thing you can just do is tell them to stop and constantly put their characters in situations where they have to rely on other characters' abilities. And once again, a session 0 here. Make it clear, look, you're not the main character. Your character is one of many. This is an ensembles cast. This isn't, this is the Avengers. This is an Iron Man. And that's okay. About half the time, I would say it's not malicious. In which case, you just kind of be like, dude, chill, okay? You're not. And if it is malicious, you just got to be like, use that social pressure to tell them, like, dude, shut the fuck up and let Pete have his moment. Shut the fuck up and let Josh have his moment. And the other thing with the main character syndrome is a lot of that does kind of fit into some of the other player types, specifically the sore loser, the cheating player, the power gamer. A lot of those, the main character syndrome kind of feed into each other. So nipping one in the bud helps hurt the other one. There's not a lot you can do about somebody with main character syndrome except for just constantly remind them, and I will give them that in this one. What my character would do, if you as a player are using that phrase, which is what my character would do, you've probably done something problematic. If everybody at the table is mad because you've done something and it's what my character would do, you're playing a character that is harmful to the group. You need to reconsider the character you're playing. And the God's honest truth is, what my character would do is very often just an excuse to be a problem. Because if you do something like that, it's the same with like characters who play. I played chaotic neutral characters before. It is possible to play a good chaotic neutral character. One of my favorite characters, his name was Avilios the Gold. He was chaotic neutral. He was chaotic neutral because he was just mercenary. He was very much like, pay me to do a job. He didn't have outside of his group of friends. He did have loyalty to his team. But like, he didn't have loyalty to any nation, any organization, anything like that. It was just very, very mercenary. Now, that being said, he wouldn't necessarily align with somebody who's like harmfully evil. Like he wasn't, a fascist, but he probably wouldn't take money from. He'd take money from a fascist. He would just steal it. Like he would absolutely take the money and then vanish. But he didn't have alliances to kings and anything like that, and he saw good and evil as good and evil was morality that was like, I'm trying to think of the way to put it. Morality was good and evil was a concept for people with power, for governments, and for organizations. Average everyday people didn't give a shit about good and evil. They cared about survival, and he very, very much had that mindset. So good and evil were concepts for navel gazers and kings, not for people. So he didn't really have an attachment to good and evil. He did very, very evil things, but I would argue he kind of leaned good. But he absolutely did evil things because, evil and good are concepts afforded to the powerful, not to average everyday people. And he was chaotic because he had no alliances to anyone outside of his group, people he saw as his cohort. No, not cohorts. Cohorts is a bad word. Like a mercenary band was. He had loyalty to them because if you have no loyalty to anyone, if you're alone in the world, then you will forever and always be worried about somebody stabbing you in the back. If, you have 6 people who can all watch each other's sixes, as it were, you can, not... The other betrayers of the world won't necessarily get to you. So that was a chaotic neutral character. A lot of people play chaotic neutral characters so they can play disruptive characters. Yes. The princess has been locked in the dungeon. I cut her fucking hands off. What? Yeah, well, she's chained up. I'll just cut her fucking hands off and get her out. What my character would do, I'm chaotic neutral. You don't know what I'm going... Like, no, you're not. You're just... That's not chaotic neutral. You're just an asshole. Like, I call it chaotic stupid. Because the joke, the paladin who's like, oh yes, we must give the, death call a chance to surrender. They joke as lawful stupid because, like, you're so lawful good, you make dumb choices. And this kind of falls in the murder hobo, but it goes beyond the murder hobo. And I would argue this is almost a toxic character trait. But the guy who's just kind of the asshole who's just kind of disruptive. I'm chaotic neutral. Problem with the D&D alignment system anyway. I've gone over that in a video before. About the shittiness of the D&D. Have I? I've either gone over it before or I'm going to go over it one day. I'll have to check again. But anyway, D&D alignment system is stupid and it doesn't work and it causes more fights than it actually gives role-playing advice to. But yeah, it's like, you're not chaotic neutral, you're chaotic stupid. You're making stupid choices in the name of being chaotic. The Joker in The Dark Knight was chaotic. But, like, he didn't just make stupid choices. He was still very deliberate and thoughtful, and, his line about, I'm just a dog chasing cars, is a lie. He was very, very methodical and did a lot of forethought in his actions. He was chaotic. He's chaotic evil, but he was chaotic in that he had no alliances to anyone but himself, and his goal was spreading anarchy, was to demolish the establishment, which is a very chaotic way of looking at the world. But yeah, so but players who do that just to be a dick, you're just being disruptive to everybody else. Just stop, okay? Like, come on, man. Nobody wants to deal with that shit. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to link the article I got the list of problem player behaviors from. I'm going to, hopefully I remember. I'm going to link in the description below. I'm going to try to link. If I don't say something, I will post it in a comment. Also in the link below. I'm not going to do this every week, but I do want to just mention it for those of you watching. Put my PayPal and my Cash App in case you just wanna. Just a couple dollars. I don't have a Patreon because I don't want to lock people into monthly subscriptions, because I understand that money's tight and you might only have $2-3 to send my way, if you want, and that's fine. And one time, $1, $2, 50 cents, whatever, any of it helps. Our channel helps me with these projects I'm working on, helps me take care of, increasing production and things like that. And if you don't, I'll put this out for free. This is an hour, and you may not like it, and that's fine. I understand. But I'm putting it out. I don't have this monetized. I'm not monetizing this. I don't have, I don't ads. I don't do ad reads or sponsorships. This is entirely me and my thoughts and my feelings, and I'm not beholden to anyone else. So if you want to put a donation to my PayPal or my Cash App, I would appreciate it. Do not feel like you have to. I'm not guilting you. Times are tough, man. You may not have money to send my way, and that's perfectly fine. I understand that. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna be back. I don't know if I'm gonna post this video later this week or next week, next Monday, and it'll just a lot depend on my schedule. But next video is going to be this weird community within the past couple days I've stumbled on in the tabletop role-playing community, specifically Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't realize this community existed, and it just, honestly, it has to be addressed, and I'm going to address it. So I'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.